Hello and welcome to the review for the MOS Excel Associate Certification. My name is David Sanford. I am the Associate Professor and Chair of the Management Information Systems program here at Northwood University. For this review, I am not covering the individual tasks that are within this file. What I am covering are the individual tools and explaining how these tools work and where to find them, etc. You will see some of the tasks completed, but not all of the tasks will be completed. With that said, I do want to start with basics that aren't even listed in the first slide of this presentation. So as you watch this, pay attention to what I'm doing and what I'm saying, but not the individual tasks. Okay? Microsoft has provided the set of skills needed for their exam, and that's what we're basing this off of. This file that I'm using is the review file that was provided through the LinkedIn Learn that you were assigned in your class. So that's what I'm using. Now, to cover the mere basics, like the very basics, when you first open Excel, it'll open this screen right here. This screen gives you all of the different tools that you can use. It also provides templates. So if I want to see more templates, I can find all kinds of templates for items. And if you look, you can find business, personal, all that other stuff, and find templates that you can use. So if you were told to use a specific template, that's where you find them. Okay. Now, if you aren't using a template, you go back. You can start with a blank workbook, for instance. If I go back in, you can also see all of the files that you already have working and that you're using. You can also find files that were shared with you. Anything that you pinned because of importance. You can also find information about the file, including all of the properties. If it was to tell you to do something like add your company to name to the file, I can actually add it like that. If it tells me to change the author of the file, I can actually add an author. All I have to do is type in the number, or not the number, the name, and I'm just going to say Sanford and hit enter, and that would add Barbara Sanford to the list. If I don't want that person, I right click and remove person. Okay. This is also where you can look at your version history, for instance, and you can see as soon as it opens, there'll be a menu that opens up that shows you all of the versions that I've saved to your computer. Okay. Right now this is set as read only, so I can't actually share this, and I'll show you how you fix that. But right now it's set as read only. I'm going to close that. I'm going to go to File again. Under File is where you can save. I'm going to save it to my OneDrive. I'm going to save it as this, but I'm going to add a word so I know it's this file is the one that I'm currently working on. I can click Save. Once I do that, all of a sudden I don't have a version history because I've only got the one version. If I go to Share, at this point, because that's not read-only up there, I can actually share the file. Now, sharing the file gives you the ability to allow people to see the file, where you can just view it, or you can edit it, or you cannot download it, so you can view but not download. Can view, you can download and view it. Can edit, you can edit it, view it, download it. Okay? So that's how you do that, and you can add people that are already in your contact list in your Outlook, etc., or within your organization. If you don't have anyone or someone outside of your organization or outside of the school, you can do a copy link, and if you go here, okay, you can actually select who can do what. You know, whoever has this link can edit the expiration date of that of that. You can set an expiration date of all that. So these are basic and advanced file info things that you can get. Go back to info. You can look for issues. You can reset changes pane, all that good stuff. Copy paths, all that. So that's where we're going. Okay. Save a copy, print, share, export, all that good. Okay, so now I'm going back to the main sheet. Oh, let me also specify one other thing. When you go to File, these are workbooks. Workbooks contain many sheets. You have sheet, okay, these are all different sheets. I can add a new sheet by clicking the plus sign. And I can right click, or I can just double click on it and change the name. If I just wanted to call it test, I can call it test. If I want to delete it, I can right click and I can go delete. I'm not going to at this moment. If I want to, if I hold down control, I can select multiple, and I can select multiples that are not connected to each other. If I hold down control again, I can remove that. If I select just one that wasn't selected, it unselects all the others. If I hold down shift and click one, it'll select all of them between plus the one I clicked on. Okay, that will come in handy later. Okay, so those are the basics of this part. Columns go vertical, okay, and they have letters. Rows are horizontal, and they're represented by numbers. Where a column and a row intersect, that's a cell. Every cell has an address. When you go to the name box, which is right here, you can see that I'm in cell G15. The name box is important. It's called name box for a reason, and we will get to that in the second video of this series. But we're just going to make it through the first part first, but I wanted to explain what a column, a row, and a cell are. I explained what sheets are, workbook is. Now let's continue. This right here is a ribbon. Up here are your menu, or is your menu. If I click on File, it takes me to that menu. If I click on Home, it shows me this. If I click on Insert, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, you can see how that ribbon's changing. Anywhere in the ribbon that has this little arrow in the corner, if you click on that, that gives you all the options for that area. Alignment, I get more options, a little easier to fix things and manipulate things and understand things. Okay, same thing goes in data. If there's anything special like outline, for instance, I can click on that and you can see that you got other things that you can apply. Review, none of them have anything special, and we'll get to some of these issues, are not issues, but some of these items in a short bit here. Okay, so that's the basics of what a ribbon is, and how you kind of navigate the ribbon, how you see more advanced features. The advanced features button there, that font settings and alignment settings and all that stuff, when you click those, it's important, because if you don't have your screen maximized to your computer screen, so you got it minimized to a window, some of the items that you see in here don't exist as buttons. So you would have to click on something like this to make it visible again. Okay, so there's that. If they tell you to use a formula bar, this is the formula bar. Okay, and I think that is it for this video, and I will continue on to the next video, which we will cover manage worksheets and workbooks, import data into workbooks, navigate within workbooks, format worksheets and workbooks, prepare workbooks for collaboration and distribution, and that'll be good for the next video. Thank you. Okay, for this section, we want to talk about managing worksheets and workbooks. We're going to look at import data into workbooks. We're going to navigate within workbooks. We're going to format worksheets and workbooks. We're going to prepare workbooks for collaboration and distribution. I'm going to be taking things in the order of what they showed up in Microsoft's skill sets needed for their exam, which is the table that was shown on slide 2 of this presentation. The first thing it says is import data from text files, import data from online sources, etc. To import data, again, I'm not doing the exact tasks, okay? So follow along, pay attention to the tools, and I'm showing how we do individual tasks, okay? Even these exercises, like these things here, we're not necessarily doing those. If I wanted to import data, I would actually click my plus, not necessarily this way, but I would actually determine what sheet I'm going to import it to. So I created a new sheet to import it. And then under data, we can get data from a text file or from a CSV file or what have you. There are all kinds of different places to get it from, okay? You can get it from existing connections, from a picture, from a table. If I say from a text or a CSV file, it'll open up a dialog box. My computer's a little slow, so bear with it. Not sure why, but anyway. Once you're there, you can find a file, which hopefully it'll I'm looking, it's in my OneDrive, sorry. There's a start file, there's RPS, there's all kinds of different things. I'm going to use this RPS game TXT file, and I'm going to say import. And one of the things that is going to offer me are options, and it says, well, we have column 1 if I want to transform the data and how it looks and all that good stuff. You can actually pull it in and look at it in the format that it's at. There's nothing in this file, that's why it's not showing anything. Okay, so I'm going to close that, I'm going to discard. I'm going to go back into here, and the reason I didn't have anything else show in there is because I don't have a CSV file. So for me to find other files that are going to work, I actually have to go in here and I need to find, I think it might be in here. Nope. I've got to find my files. Give me a second. Trying to remember where it's at. I don't see it. I can put one there soon. Here we go. So if I went to 7, for instance, there's a customer list. I can import that. It's going to show me the screen. And this is what the data looks like. I can transform data, or I can load it as is. If you notice that this says it's tab delimited, if you have a CSV file, the CSV is comma separated value, so you would actually use comma. In this case, it's a TXT file and they use tabs to separate. That's why tab will work. If I change this to CSV or comma, notice that it places everything together. So you kind of get an idea of how that's working. Okay, so if I load it based on this, you can load or load to. If I say load to, I can tell it, do I want to load it to a table, to a pivot table report, to a pivot chart, etc. Do I want it on its own new worksheet, or do I want it on an existing worksheet? If I want it on an existing worksheet, what cell do I want it to start in? And do I want to add this table to a data model? That's advanced. You will not be asked to do that most likely. Okay, so I'm going to put it on an existing worksheet in cell A1, and I hit OK. And there it is. Now here's the thing. it brought it in, and if you notice, first name, last name, email address, those aren't column headings. I'm going to actually undo what I just did. Actually, I can't. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to create a new sheet. I'm going to go to File, not File. I'll go through the steps again. If I go to Data, From Text, or CSV, I use this. I say Import. I think I missed a button. And that was, let's see if Transform Data gives me the option. Transform Data, this should, and it's not. This should give me an option, and it's not giving me the option of whether or not my information is, if my first row contains column headings or not. Right here, there's a text, there's a box that says use first row as headers. If I click that, notice how it changed this to headers, and I can go from there and I can say, at that point I should be able to go back to close and load, boom, and it will bring it in. Okay, so now all of a sudden you can see that I have headers. So let me do that step again. If I go to Data, From Text CSV, select it, hit Import, and because I have column headers here and it's not showing it up here, you literally have to say Transform Data, and in Transform Data you would use first row as headers. It would move those up there, and then you would close and load, and it would put it in cell A1 and fill it. It brings it in as a table. If you notice, it came in as a table. The reason I know it's a table, number one, it's got the drop down arrows. Okay. Number two, if I'm inside of it, it actually has table design listed there. Okay. We'll get into some of this other stuff later, because there is manipulate data in workbooks, format cells and ranges, and manage tables and table data. Those are things later on. Okay, so that will be part of it. But that is importing data from a text file. You can import data from an Excel file in the same format. Okay, so if I said, let me delete these. Remember, if I hold down Shift, I can select multiples. If I hold down Control, I can delete or I can select multiples that aren't attached to each other, and I can delete them, for instance, and do it to all of them at the same time. Test had nothing as well, so I'm going to delete that. If I want to get data from an external file, you can get it from get data from File and from Excel Workbook. Okay, this is different than a CSV file. If I said Excel Workbook, you'll see that there are other options for me. If I actually was to go to my OneDrive, notice that I have a file called ADI Data. If I say Import, it's going to give me a screen, and I can tell it what sheet I want to import. Okay, notice that it automatically chose my first row. Okay, if I just load it and say load to, it will ask me, do I want it as a table? Do I want it in existing worksheet or new worksheet? I'm going to say new worksheet. That's fine. Hit OK. It pulls in my data. It formats it as a table when it imports it. Okay. Now, one of the things that they don't mention here, and I'm looking, well, we'll get to that later, but you can convert this back to a normal range, because there are advantages of tables and disadvantages of tables. We'll get to that later. Okay. So hopefully that helps. Now, navigating within workbooks, it says that we search for data within a workbook. We can navigate to names, cells, ranges, or workbook elements, etc. Remember that name box that I told you about where it shows cell references? If I click on one of those, it highlighted a whole range. If I click on another one, it highlights the whole range that that's related to. If I click on another one, it highlights that whole range. These are just different values. If I click on that, it takes me to that table. So the name box is important, and those cell references are important, and I can actually manipulate and hop around my stuff using that. If I was to go to sheet 1 there, I put that on, and I was to name a cell, okay, so I click in J2, I click in the name box, and I can actually name a cell, and I can call that test_1, for instance. Okay, I'm just testing to see if this naming works. So I'm saying test_1, and I hit enter. You have to hit enter to save the name. What's nice is if I go here, and I go back to test 1, it takes me to the exact cell. All of the ones that they already had made for you actually take you to a range by that name. So if I wanted to name a range of cells, I can highlight this, click here, call that test_range. Oh, might help if I spell that right. Hit enter, and from that point forward, if I go here, you can see that it hops around between where you're asking it to go. So that is how we navigate. The other way of navigating is if I wanted to, on this sheet, go to E96, I can actually type E96, hit enter, and it takes me to cell E96. I'm in column E, row 96. Okay, so that's another way of handling that. So that's navigate to names, cells, ranges, and workbook elements, etc. You can set bookmarks and stuff like that within here. And you can insert and remove hyperlinks and all that. So if I wanted to, I could actually say insert hyperlink, link, and I can choose where I'm linking to. I can insert link, and I can say, do I want it to be in the current folder? Do I want it to be a place in this document? If I say place in this document and I make it project 4, I hit OK, it puts that there. If I click it, it takes me to project 4. Okay, I can actually go to a cell name if I wanted to, and all kinds of stuff like that. And if you want to search for data within a workbook, you can do the search up here where we can, I don't want to add a hyperlink. That's not what I'm looking for. Might be under, I'm looking for the search. I thought it was there. Well, let's just type it in here. Five. Find, and you see how it says, shows find in document. So I type in project 5, and it says find in document. If I put a space there, it'll probably help me along a little more. So find in document, I click that and I hit OK. Find what? So I can find next, for instance. We couldn't find what you were looking for, but anyway, if I had a value or something that I was looking for, it could find that. Especially if it's within sheet, within by rows, all that stuff, match entire content cells. There's different ways of handling this. Okay, if I say find all, it's not finding it because it's not there. But if I did say average price, and I click that, it will find it within the document. You can see that it's actually, if I say find next, you can see that it found that cell. If I say find next, find next, find next, you can see that it's existing here, average price. If I say find next, it goes to the next value. And if I say find all, it would, of course, find all of them, and it gives me a list of them, and then I can go to whichever source I want. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so that is navigating within workbooks and inserting and removing hyperlinks. The next thing, we want to look at how we format worksheets and workbooks. So we will go back to Home tab. And under Home tab, of course, we have a ribbon with all of the information. When we look at this, one of the things that we want to do is we want to modify page setup. If you go to page layout, there is a section called page setup. You can utilize the buttons that are here. Okay. Set a print area, what have you. Set page breaks and remove page breaks. Choose a background. Print titles. Or you can click this and get more information. Okay, more features, etc. Okay. So I'm going to just click OK. We're going to utilize some of what's already there. So it says modify page setup. How do I modify page setup? Maybe it's margins. If it tells me that it needs custom margins or something, let's say it wants 1/2 inch all around and it's not shown here, you would go to custom margins. Waiting for my computer to catch up, I believe. Don't know why it's doing this. It's not taking me where I need to be. So let's do it differently. Go to custom margins. And in here, you can center horizontally and vertical on a page. You can set these to 1/2 inch on each side if you want to. This is in inches. Okay. Top and bottom are 1/2 inch. You can do a print preview to see what it's going to look like. That's what it would look like if I did what I just told it to do. Okay. Go back. I can go back in and change that, do whatever I need to. But needless to say, that's where you would go to do custom margins or set it as normal or what have you. Okay. Right now, I'm in a view mode that I can actually see my page breaks. That's what the dotted lines are, is where my page breaks. If I wanted to set my print area, so I'm going to set a print area. I have to actually select the area first. I'm going to actually select from this cell down to, I'm going to select the whole set of data, and I'm going to set that as print area. Setting print area does not change your page breaks. For that, you would actually have to change the scale to fit to page. So I would have to say 1 page by 1 page. And all of a sudden, you'll see that that page break disappeared. Okay? And then if I go to print preview, where did I go to file print? I'll go to print, and I want to view a well, that's what it would look like in the preview. So you can see I changed the print range, and I changed it to fit in the center of the page horizontally and vertically, and then I also shrunk it to fit 1 page by 1 page. So those were the things that I did as far as print area and stuff like that. If I clear print area, you'll notice that the page break still didn't come back. I have to set this back to automatic and this back to automatic, and my page breaks should be back to normal. Right now I'm not viewing my breaks. So, and I can insert and remove page breaks at will. So I can adjust height and column widths. That was navigation. I can adjust row height and column widths. If I highlight a bunch of column or rows, for instance, and hold down Shift. By the way, just like you can select multiple tabs, I can actually select multiple rows. I can select non-contiguous rows by using Control instead of Shift. Oops, I gotta actually click on the number. Okay, so I just selected non-contiguous. Contiguous means that they're attached to one another. So if I was doing non-contiguous, I can highlight like this, or if I was doing contiguous, I can highlight them all at once. Okay, if I want to, I can use my cursor hits this little plus where it's got arrows going up and down. It means I can adjust that height. Notice how it adjusted the height for all. If I double click that, it auto fits to the largest content. Same thing with columns. If I double click, you can see that it auto fits according to content. If I do it like this, if I highlight multiple columns and change it, all of a sudden you can see they all become the same size. Okay. If I double click when they're all selected, it automatically auto sizes for everything selected. So if I select all of these and I double click this line, that's auto fit. Now the thing is you can do it in other ways. There are other places to choose auto fit and all that good stuff, but that's the simplest format that I find is when I want to auto fit columns and rows and stuff like that. I do it there. If I was to go to alignment, for instance, I can actually choose, do I want the text to fall within a certain area? Do I want to shrink it to fit? Do I want to wrap text? All that good stuff. If I go ahead to, I'm looking for, insert. I was looking for something very specific and I don't see it. Bear with me. Scale to fit, that's page layout, that's not what I'm looking for. This one to cell format. There we go. Here's where it is. It's in cells, it's under Home tab. So it's the Home tab ribbon, and under format you can find that you can actually physically set a row height. You can physically set a column height. You can auto fit row height, auto fit column width. So I show you how to do things right clicking. That's the way I typically do stuff, but I can also organize sheets. I can also change tab colors. I can protect the sheet. I can lock cells. I can format cells. Do everything in that realm. I can hide rows, hide columns, unhide rows, unhide columns, and all of that. Okay, so like I was saying, everything that you can do in Excel, you can do it in multiple ways. I like right click. I'm not sure if the exam requires you to do it in a very specific way, but if you're editing, if you're changing column widths, column heights, row widths, row heights, deleting sheet columns and inserting rows and all that stuff, that happens in your Home tab in the cells area, and when you click the down you get more options. Okay, so there's that. So that's adjusting. Custom headers and footers, that's in page layout. If I was doing custom headers and footers, I would actually click this little arrow here in the page layout ribbon, and I would go to header footer and custom header, for instance. You can type whatever you want in these. If I type it here, it shows up in the center of the page, left side of the page, right side of the page. These buttons actually do something for you. Instead of typing a date, I can insert date and it looks like that, and what that'll do is no matter when I print it, it will print the current date. Not the date that it was created, that's the current date. Okay? You can do the same thing with time. Now, you can also insert page numbers. So I could say page number, and then if I want to show of pages, I'd have to say of pages. So page, whatever number that is of however many number of pages there are. The other thing I can do is I can actually include a file path. I can include the file name. I can even include the tab name that's being printed. Okay. I can include a picture, so if I wanted a logo to show up on every page, I can do that. These buttons are important, okay? I can also format the text so they all show up in the same format, strike through, whatever. I can format it so it all looks the same. When you click OK, you can see what that's going to look like, okay? I don't like that at all. I would actually undo all of that. Which is easy. You just delete that. If you want just something that you type in, you can just type it in here. Version 1, for instance, and hit OK. So that's the header. And then you can do the same thing with the footer. You can place your values from here. Okay. So if they tell you to put the file name, they literally want you to click this button. If they want you to put page numbers, you'd have to do that. If they want page of pages, you'd have to type of and then click that. Okay, so there's different things that you can do. Those buttons are important though, because that allows it to change dynamic with whatever you change the name of the file to, whatever you change the name of a sheet to, whatever the date currently is and the time currently is. Okay, so that's important. So, okay. So I'm going to cancel, hit OK. Different odd and even, scale with document, align with page margins, all that good stuff. You can print preview. If you go to options, you get more options as far as what your printer's offering and stuff like that, and how you're dealing with things. Okay, so now the options have to do with your printer options, just so you know. Some of those options will vary depending on what printer you have and stuff like that. Okay, so there's that. That's custom header and footer. Customize options and views. We just did that. Manage quick access toolbar. If you don't know where the quick access toolbar is, guess what? I'm going to show you a nifty little trick. By the way, if I hover over this, this is the quick access toolbar. But if you don't know where it's at, learn where the help file is, okay? Because all you have to do is ask it, and you go to options, and it will open it for you. Okay, so searching for tools and stuff like that is a way of helping yourself. If I wanted to, I could actually say I want this to be added to my quick access. If I wanted to, I could add calculate now to my quick access. If I wanted to, I can do custom sort, I could do fill color, whatever I want to my quick access, and when I click OK, it will change that list of items that show there. So if I click OK right now, and I click the down, you're going to see everything that I said to put there should be there. More commands. It didn't move it. Customize quick access toolbar for all documents. It didn't move it. Nice. There's other things that you can work with in here as well, but this is where you go to do that. This is also where you go to customize your ribbons. So if there are things that you specifically used all the time, you can do that from here as well. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna hit OK. Now, if you notice, calculate now shows up there and the charts show up there. So even though this is quick access, you can see that it actually added buttons for calculate now and this. Okay. So there's that. I'm looking to see what else we have. Manage quick access. Display and modify worksheets in different ways. To display and modify worksheets, Here's the normal view, here's the page layout view, and here is a page break preview. So page break preview shows me what would print on this page, what would print on this page, etc. If I go back to this view, I can actually manipulate and move my page breaks and stuff accordingly. Okay, right now, if I scroll down, I don't have any page breaks because remember how I set my print dialog. If I click here and I go in here to this one, it's different for every page, or every sheet, I should say. Every sheet would have a different page break laid out depending on how you set it, or could have, depending on how you set it. Right now I have it looking like this. If I was to go to page break preview, I can actually change where my page breaks are by just dragging them. So I could change it to one page to one page. I could actually take this and move it down and everything else. Okay, so there's that. If I click print titles, what row do I want to repeat at top, for instance? If I wanted a row to repeat at top, I'd probably want this row to repeat at top, or maybe I want all of these rows to repeat at top. Okay, my print area I already have. Do I want any of my columns to repeat? Do I want first name and last name to repeat no matter where I drag, etc.? Okay, if I click print preview and I was to scroll, you can see that those column headings are staying no matter what page I'm on. Okay, so that's where we would do that. Freeze worksheet rows and columns. I'm going to go to a new sheet. If I wanted to freeze these two columns, or yeah, let's use these two columns. And if I went to view, freeze, and I can say freeze first column or freeze columns, and as I drag it, it did the first column, but as I drag, you can see that it actually freezes that column. If I want to freeze this row, for instance, I can say freeze top row, or freeze first column, or unfreeze panes, all that stuff. Okay, so there's that. Control Z. Did it actually unfreeze that? I don't know. No, I didn't unfreeze that, so I have to unfreeze panes. There. Okay, so there's that. Change window views, I already did that. Modify built-in workbook properties, I already did that too, but I'll show you again. File, info, you can do built-in workbook properties, you can change these things, specify the manager of the file, etc. And the other thing is displaying formulas. Okay, if you go to Formulas tab, there are things that you can use in here to show formulas, for instance. Currently, I don't have any formulas in this one. I don't in that one. I don't. Wait, do I in this one? I do not. Show formulas. Let me scroll over. Yes, I do not. If I actually said equals this divided by this, all of a sudden I can see the formula. If I unselect show formulas, I see the result. Okay? If I click show formulas, it shows me my formulas. If I don't want to see that, I turn that off. Another way you can do that is by holding down the control and hitting the tilde key, which is usually above the tab key of your keyboard, and that toggles you back and forth between formula preview and regular. Formula preview and regular. Okay? I'm going to undo that. And that's it. That's what we have. Prepare workbooks for collaboration and distribution. I almost forgot that step. Set print area, I already showed you that once. If all I wanted to print was this area, for instance, I can select that and I can go to page layout, set print area, and now that's the only thing that's going to print. Save and export workbooks in alternative file formats. If I go to File, Save a Copy, and I can click here and select alternative file formats. So if I wanted it as a CSV, I can save it as a CSV. Okay. Export is the same deal. I can export it as a PDF, or I can change file type of how I want to export it. Okay. So if I say change file type, what file type do I want it to be? A CSV or what have you? Okay. I think you can do a TXT file, tab delimited. Okay. So there's that. Configure print settings. We already did that at one point, but if I was in here, if I go to print, in here I can change print settings. Okay, so do I want to print both sides of the page? Do I want to print active sheets or only print? Do I want to print the entire workbook or only active sheets? Do I want to print only the selection? So if I highlighted an area, do I want to only print that? Custom scaling, I can fit sheet on one page. So every sheet that I print would all fit on one page. Print columns on one page, etc. Okay, so there's that. Inspect workbooks and correct issues. Under, not help, under view, or review, sorry. You can check accessibility, check for accessibility issues and stuff like that, and add alt text to images and all that stuff. So this is where you would actually go to do that. So any of this check performance, check accessibility, that's where you go to inspect workbooks and correct issues. Manage comments and notes. If I want to add new comments or notes, this is the tab for that. If I wanted to add a comment to this cell, for instance, I can say new comment, and it allows me to put a comment in there. If I want a new note, it shows this way. Okay? So comment's different than note. Pay attention when you're doing it because it is different. Okay? You can also track changes and stuff that have existed on your file. One of the ways that you can see that a note exists is you see that there's that little red triangle in the corner. I can click on that and it shows me. Okay. If I if I click on a cell, it does it. I can say show comments, and it says there are no comments. I didn't add it. I can turn that off. I can say notes. I can say show or hide notes or show all notes. And when I'm showing, it makes it easier to edit. Okay. So all of that's there underneath the review tab. Okay. So you click the review menu item there, and it gives you the review ribbon, and you can do those items. Okay. So that's this section of managing workbooks and worksheets. Hopefully that helps, and we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, the next section of this video series is the managing data cells and ranges. I already started it, but I'm going to go back over a couple of the simpler things that I have already done. I'm going to open a new sheet just because I can, and I will. And I'm going to import, so I'm going to do another importing of information from from data, from file, Excel file. I'm going to pull that ADI data file again because that gives me something to use. And I want to do it to sheet 1. That's fine. And I want to load that data and it should load it here to A1. And it does. Now it brought it in as it brought it into here as a table, and we're going to get to this because you can actually change this to not be a table, etc. Okay, so we're going to deal with that later, but right now we're going to look at manipulate data in worksheets, paste data using special paste options, etc. I'm actually going to take a bunch of data, Control C. When it says using special paste options, if I right click, here are all your different paste options I can choose. I can change just the formatting, I can paste a link to the information, I can transpose the data to take your column headings and make them row headings and put dates across the top, for instance. I can copy only functions and formulas. I can paste just the values, or I can just generally paste exactly how I saw it. Okay, so those are different paste options. I can insert copied cells, and insert copied cells is interesting because if I actually had a column selected or a row selected over here and I insert copied cells, it would insert it within where I'm pasting. And I'm looking to see if there was anything else. That's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm actually just going to paste just the values. Maybe I want to I'll just paste it normal. Notice that over here it's a table, and where I pasted it, it is not. Now I hit escape, it'll unselect what I copied and pasted. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do something else, because it says fill cells by using autofill. So paste data by using special paste options we just did. We're going to fill cells by using autofill. If I wanted to, I'm going to zoom over, or not zoom, move over here. I'm going to type in Monday and hit enter. Autofill, I can grab the fill handle. So right now I have Monday. There are certain things that automatically happen with Excel. I can actually take this all the way to Sunday. If I was to copy this down, it does the same thing. Okay? The same thing happens with numbers. If I say 1 and put 2, I can highlight the 2 cells, drag them across, and you see it keeps that that spacing. If I go 1, 5, and I highlight those, it goes forward, what, 4 at a time, because there's 4 between these two. Okay, so if I say 1 and 10, and I highlight these 2 and I drag down, you can see how that numbering changes. So every 9 digits it adds, and so on. Okay, so that's part of filling cells using autofill. Another thing you can do using fill is, let me clear formats. There. You just learned how to clear formatting, by the way. So right here you can choose clear. I can clear the contents. I can clear all, which is the formats and the contents. I can clear hyperlinks. So if I selected my whole document by clicking this button here, I could actually clear hyperlinks. So if I had any hyperlinks on that sheet at all, it would get rid of them. If I wanted to clear formats, I can clear formats, and so on. Okay? And we'll get to that too, because when we format cells and all that good stuff, there's some really interesting ways of handling that. So that's fill cells by, I was going to do fill cells by this. I'm going to get rid of volume. I'm going to delete that column. So I selected the column heading, which is R. I right click, I hit delete, and boom, it's gone. And right here I'm going to say change, and I'm going to right here say equals, and I'm going to say close minus open, just for the heck of it. Okay? And autofill can happen more than one way. If I double click this handle, which is the fill handle, it would autofill all the way down. Okay? If I don't want to do it that way, I can fill and say down. I can fill right, up, left. I can justify and all that good stuff. I'm going to fill down. Not that way. I should have done differently. I'm going to fill down. Notice how I have to click it each time. Well, I'm going to show you why. Because I didn't have one selected. I would have to literally select a whole range and fill down. Oh, I'd have to select a whole range and fill down. Okay. Or the other way, like I was saying, is literally to grab the fill handle, drag it down, Control Z, or if you double click the fill handle, it autofills until there's no more data next to it. Okay? There are other things that we can do. We can do flash fill and stuff like that, and we'll get to that at some point, not right now. So there's that. That is using the autofill. So we can change dates, we can change numbers, we can change, like if I say QTR1 for instance, if I copy that down, it recognizes it. If I copy it across, it recognizes it. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That is using autofill and auto numbering and everything else. If I wanted dates, I could say 11/24/2024, and if I grab this and I drag it down, you can see how it changes. If I wanted to, I can say equals this plus 30, and we'll get to that later, and copy it down, and dates are numbers, so we can number things like that. Okay, so there's that. Insert and delete multiple columns or rows, insert and delete cells, and generate numeric data by rand, between, and sequence. Okay, right here I want to say insert and delete multiple columns or cells. If I was to highlight columns such as this, I'm selecting multiple, so I select it by the number, drag down, right click, I can delete, okay, or I can delete sheet rows, okay. Another thing is they don't have to be contiguous, they don't have to be columns that are touching one another. I can literally select these, say delete, well, in this case it's sheet, but if I was to do if I was to do this, oh, it does have to be contiguous. It didn't used to be. Well, it has to be contiguous. Never mind. So delete multiples or delete multiple columns. Highlight the columns that you want to delete. Highlight the cells that are the rows that you want to delete. If I wanted to insert 10 rows, I'm going to go from 2 to 11. I'm going to go to insert, and it will insert 10 rows. Same thing goes here. If I want to insert one column, I can just right click and insert a column. If I want to insert multiple columns, I can right click and insert multiple columns. Okay. I'll just undo that. Undo the previous because it looks terrible. There. Insert, delete cells. If I want to insert a group of cells, I can highlight a range of cells, and I can go to insert cells, and if I click that, do I want to shift them down? Do I want to shift them right? So basically, do I want to shift what's inside of here to the right, or do I want to shift down, or do I want to do the entire row or entire column? I'm going to say right just to show you what it does. Notice how it shifted everything to the right and inserted new cells. Same thing here. Delete cells. Do I want to shift it left? Do I want to shift it up, or what have you? I'm going to shift it left. It'll bring things back. So that's how that works. And then generate numeric data by rand, between, and sequence. Now this is where we're going to start getting into this function dialog box. If I say equals rand between, open parenthesis, and if you don't know how to do this, click your function dialog box, which is right here, the insert function dialog box, and it says is the smallest integer being a positive number, and the highest. Hit OK. Now I've got to warn you that this is volatile data. So as soon as I do it again, notice how all of it changes. So even though it's random, it's consistently going to change. Okay? And sequence, if we go to sequence, I don't know how to find it or anything like that. I can go to the insert function, the dialog box, by clicking this here. And right here, I can actually type and this is how we use the dialog box. I say generate sequence and I hit go. And it's going to show me all of the functions that can generate sequence. Eventually, when my computer catches up to me, it will show me this. Okay, it'll catch up sooner or later, don't worry. Maybe. I don't think I can't even cancel. I'm just waiting. So it's not responding. It's taking my computer a long time to catch up. It might be because I'm recording this video at the same time as doing all of these things. Computer's been acting a little weird lately. As it's catching up to us, I'm going to talk about the next things. Merge and unmerge cells. Those are things that we're going to be working with. Did it just totally close me out? It doesn't know what it's doing to me. Okay. It bombed out. Am I still recording? I think I'm still recording. We'll find out. Anyway, let me go back to home, dialog box. I'm just going to type it in. Hit sequence. There it is. I hit OK. Rows. The number of rows to return, I'm going to hit 20. Columns. The number of columns to return, 5. And the first number in the sequence is 9. And amount to increment each subsequent value is to 2. And I hit OK. And it will fill based on wherever I was. I get a spill error because there's other stuff there. I put it in the wrong cell. Control X. Control V. There. So I moved it. I got a spill error because we were trying to generate it over stuff that already existed. But anyway, there's how you can get data as well. But if you notice, if I type anything in, it generates an error. So it's here nor there. At the end of the day, if I hit enter, I can do a function that sums up the row, what have you. We'll get to that later. Okay, so that's the ran between and the sequence. If you notice, like I said, I did the dialog box. I hit this. It brings you in. When you find sequence, it brings you in. And it literally tells you what each argument in that function is. Okay? There's also help on this function, which you can click on that, and it gives you a lot more information and examples and stuff like that of how it's used. Okay? Got it. Okay. Formatting cells, merge and unmerge cells. Well, right now, I'm going to go here. Right now, these cells are all merged. I can tell because I can click anywhere in here and it's still the same cell reference of B1. If I unmerge, I can click this here, or I can go here, unmerge cells. Now all of a sudden, okay, things are separated. If I highlight the range, click merge and center, and there we go. Okay, so that's how you merge and unmerge cells. Modify cell alignment, orientation, and indentation. Remember, I said if you click here, life is easy. I can wrap text. I can shrink to fit the box. I can unmerge there as well if I wanted to. I can say that I want it to be left indented or fill or justify. If I click justify and I want that to be justify and I hit OK, all of a sudden it takes and it left justifies it, and it also justifies it in the other way. If I go back here, I can change the direction of it. Okay, I can indent so many spaces. Click OK. Okay, it didn't let me change the direction of the text. If I wanted to, in this case, I'm going to select this right here, and I'm going to go to alignment, and I'm going to change this and hit OK. Now you can see how that worked. Okay, so we can change the alignment in that way as well. Okay, so let's merge, unmerge, format, cell alignment, orientation. Format cells using Format Painter. I'm going to go to this cell, or this table. Yeah, I'll use this. I'm going to convert this to a range. Convert to a range, hit OK. Let's say I want to do banded column, or well, just follow along here. I want to change the background of that, but then I want to mimic this from that point forward. I could go here and I can click Format Painter, and then I can copy that however far down I want to take it. Okay, so Format Painter allows me to format how or take a format of something else that exists. So if I said Format Painter on here and I did it across here, all of a sudden that also took the fact that that was merged and centered and applied that to that range. So it got rid of information and it applied it to that range. Okay, so Format Painter, that's how we can change things. If I was to format paint right there and drag it across, now all of a sudden you see what I'm talking about. Format Painter is a pretty easy thing to work with. Wrap text within cells. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can click here, okay, or you could do it here where we wrap text, okay. Apply number formats. If you go to number, there's custom that you can do. There is date, show multiple different types of dates, percentages, how many decimal places, fractions, scientific notation, You can format it as text, you can format it as general, a number, what have you. Use comma separators or don't use comma separators for thousands and millions and stuff like that. You can do currency. Currency puts the dollar sign right next to the number. Accounting puts the dollar sign all the way to the left of your column. Okay, so there's that. That is pretty much apply number formats. You can do that with any numbers you want. So if I highlighted this range and I said right now currency, I have the dollar sign right next to the number. If I change it to accounting, like I said, the dollar sign goes all the way to the left of the column. Okay. If I was to set it as a part, if I want to, I can actually, oops, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back in here. There's symbol, so that's all good. If I say custom, you could actually add the comma in if you wanted to, and so on. Okay, but there's that. Okay. Then apply cell formats from Format Cells dialog box. I already showed you that. You can format cells. Format cells dialog box, which is this. Okay, so when I went to numbers, this is where you would do that from. Okay, these buttons are general buttons that you can use, and you can also select your styles from here. Okay, more number formats pulls up that dialog box as well. And then apply cell styles, apply cell formats from there, apply cell styles we did. Clear cell formatting, I showed you that, where I can go to clear formats, clear them. Format multiple worksheets by grouping. I will show you how you can do this. I am going to move this. Control C. I'm going to create a couple sheets. Now, if I hold down Shift or Control and I select two sheets, and I was to, with those sheets selected, I can change the sheets, the formatting. Okay, oops, I didn't want that because that was a function. I want Format Painter, that's what I wanted, sorry. There. Okay, so now I have that looking alike. If I wanted to change this format to dollars, now if I click on a sheet that's not part of it, it unselects those. If I click on this sheet and I click on this sheet, see how my format followed? So whatever formatting, if I select multiple sheets, doesn't matter if they're attached to each other or not. So if I had sheet 1 and project 3 and I was formatting, if I have those two selected, the formatting that I do applies on both of them. Okay? If I only have one selected, it only applies to the one. Define a named range. Defining a named range would be to do something like this. I highlight this range. Oops. I highlight this range and I can give it a name. I could call it data 1, for instance, and hit enter. From that point forward, I can go in here, select data 1. I've defined that name. If I want to reference a named range, I can say equals average parenthesis of data 1. Hit enter. Okay, if I look at that function, you can see that it uses the name data 1 as what I'm taking the average of. Okay, so that is referencing a named range. Same thing works with just the cells. Okay. The next thing in the list for this section is spark lines, conditional formatting, and removing conditional formatting. Spark lines, if I highlight a range, I can go to insert spark lines, or I can go to, well, if you don't know where to find it, search for it. Okay. Choose the data that you want. I'm going to choose this. Where do you want the spark lines? I want it in F1 to F20. Hit OK. There. Now I've got spark lines, and I can change the format. I can change the color. I can change whatever I want from that. I can say high point is going to be orange, and I'm going to say last point or low point or what have you. Okay. Needless to say, I can edit those spark lines and do what I want with those from that. Make sense? Hopefully. That's spark lines. How do I get rid of them? I delete. I actually have to turn them off, so I have to go back to. Where did I just find that? Oh, spark lines. Okay. Or you find where they're at, which I think is under data. I don't think it's there. Data validation, forecast. I don't see spark lines there. Formulas. Insert. I think it's in here. That's chart. Why can't I find where it's at? I can never remember where spark lines are. I thought it was under data. Definitely not under formulas. Oh, I do not see spark lines. Remove spark lines, do a search. Oops, don't do that. Spark lines. I don't know why I can't find them all of a sudden. Well, oh, spark lines up there. Once you add them, you can delete them, and so on. So you can show them like that too. You can show them different ways. Clear selected spark lines. I should be able to do it this way. Spark line, clear. There. Okay, so I got rid of them. Conditional formatting is the last thing. If I wanted to, I can highlight this range. Conditional formatting, I can do top bottom rules, so I could do like top 10%. How do I want it to look? I can do it where it's top 25%, for instance. Okay. I can change the color and so on. Just red text, doesn't matter. I can do conditional formatting that's based on if it's greater than a value. I can do it as data bars, so I can show it that way. I can do it as color scale, all kinds of different things as far as how this is controlled. Okay, so higher, middle, lower, and so on. Okay, so that is conditional formatting. If I want to remove conditional formatting, I highlight the range. I go conditional formatting, clear rules from selected cells, and there you go. Okay, that's it for this part of the video. We'll move on to the next momentarily.
Okay, this section is managing tables and table data. We're going to look at creating and formatting tables, modifying tables, and filter and sorting table data. Okay, I am actually going to undo something just to teach this. And this is one of the things that you can do. I'm looking to see if it's actually in here. Convert tables to cell ranges is the third one in the list under create and format tables. So if I go to table design, so I click inside of a table, I can tell it's a table because of the drop downs. Okay, I go to table design, convert it to a range. Now here's the thing, all I have to do is click anywhere in this area and I can say format as table and I can make it look however I want. It will select all of the data for me. Okay, my table has headers, so it's originally going to actually try to use these. It should. If not, instead of A13, I'm going to switch this to A14 if it lets me. We'll see. Yeah, I noticed how I added that. I didn't want that. So I'm actually going to select my data that I want, and I should be able to format as table, select this. If you notice, it says A14. My table has headers. I hit OK. Now that's my table. Now you can change it, you can add things to it, you can add first column, last column, you can add banded columns if you want to. So there's things like that that you can do, banded rows, all that. A total row, if I add that at the bottom, I can actually do stuff like count how many or get the max, the sum. If I say sum, it automatically sums. So size in ounces, the total number of ounces sold, here's the price, what have you. It all depends what the data is representing, but that's how you add a total row. If I want to, I can count how many column or how many rows have information and so on. Okay, so there's that. The other thing that you can do is you can, in table design, you can do a lot of other things, like you can export it, you can get rid of duplicates, all kinds of different things like that. So the filter buttons, you can turn those on and off, but we're going to leave them on because it says add or remove table rows and columns. If I want to, I can actually insert column to the left or rows above. I'm going to say column to the left. Okay. If I want a row, I can right click, I can insert row above. Okay, and I can add data to those at the same rate. Apply table styles, we already did, but we'll go back in here. There's table styles. You can select, you can choose from many. Okay. You can configure style options. If you want to, you can go to new table style and choose how you want things set up. Okay, so you can format each different area. So you can do that. You can insert and configure total rows. I just showed you that. And then the next thing, the last thing in this section is filter records and sort data by multiple columns. If I want to sort by multiple columns, I can't just click here and sort, because here I can sort by color. If I sort this one A to Z and then I sort this one A to Z, notice how it takes that filter away, or that sort away. What has to happen is I have to go to data and I have to click this sort. This sort allows me to set multiple levels. Right now I'm sorting by size or by ounces, okay? But maybe I also want to add a level, and I can move
then by product in Z to A. And I can hit OK. So now you can see I've got product Z to A and ounces. Okay, you can see that both of these are being filtered. So, or not filtered, sorted. I apologize. So I can actually remove an option if I wanted to. I can delete that and I can add a new level. And that level I can do price, for instance, and say OK. So now I'm sorting by this first and then this. Okay, so Z to A, R's all the way to A, and then it sorts this based on what you're seeing by the other. Okay, so that is this portion of the video. Hopefully that helps you. It's a pretty straightforward section, converting tables, making tables. Remember that even though we created a table here, I can go back to table design. I can convert that back to a range. What's nice is it keeps my colors and everything else. It also keeps my sort. Okay, so there's that. Now, filter. I forgot filter. Let me undo that. Filter. If I want to filter for certain things, let's say I want to filter for something specific. Not there. I got to go to filter. So I'm just making sure that it's not there. It's not. Okay, so I got to go to data. I want to filter. And I should be able to choose what I'm filtering based off of, which here you see this. That's not what I want necessarily. Text filters, you can say equals, does not contain, or whatever. Or you can select the one that you want. So I want this one, for instance, and say OK. So I can filter that way. So another way of filtering, though, is by numbers. So equals, does not equals, greater than. If I say greater than 16 and say OK, that knocks me down to 1. Okay, so that covers everything from that section. Okay, this section of the video is using formulas and functions. Let me specify that a formula is different than a function. Okay, I'm actually going to get rid of this and get rid of this. I'm going to I'm actually going to import. I'm going to bring my data back in from here, from file. I'm going to Excel file, and then I'm going to not there, desktop, not done, not desktop, OneDrive. Exercise files. I'm looking for something specific. Well, now it's not showing me what I want. Let me go back here. Oh, where do I want to get this from? I will steal it from here somewhere, maybe. I'll steal it from here. Import. Okay. I just want ADI. I want to load it. I don't really care where it gets loaded to. Okay. I'm going to convert that to a range just because of what I want to do. I'm going to get rid of volume. I did a formula a little while ago, and just to remind you, a formula is just taking let's see, what do I want to say this is change. And I'd say equals this cell minus this cell, for instance. Okay. And then to autofill, you just double click your fill handle, it drops it down. That's a formula. One cell minus another cell, or one cell times another cell, etc. Now, when we start getting into functions, things are a little different. Let me take us to here, for instance. When I look at functions, if I want total sales, I would say something like equals sum. This is a function. So I can take equals sum of this range and hit enter. So $68,000. Okay. Now the thing is that's total sales. Total sales January to June for Alora. Now that's a totally new story, because I want to, for this one, I would say equals the sum of these, or I could have done a sum if. So I'm going to show you sum if equals sum if parenthesis. Now this is a function. What range do I want to sum? I want to sum this range. Okay, I'm going to go to the dialog box just for giggles. My criteria is Alora, and my sum range is this range. Okay. That's not the right value when I look at it, because that's January to June. Why did that not work? Equals sum if. I'm critiquing this area. So this is a lesson with the dialog box. This is the line, this is the group of cells I want evaluated. And so I'm going to evaluate this based on Alora. Let's actually change this. Maybe I want to evaluate these cells. It doesn't matter. It does the exact same thing. These cells. Okay, this is not working. Well, let me take the sum range out and see. Yeah, it doesn't like that. A11 to G35. I'm comparing to that. No, I have to tell it which ones. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. Okay, so let's try a different sum. Equals sum if S. Okay, now I'm going to go here, and in here, my sum range are the actual cells to sum. I want it to be these. Criteria range is this. Alora is the value of my criteria. So I think I'm getting a value error. Okay, I don't know why this is happening. There's the values. Does this have to be the whole range? Huh. Okay. Sum if should work. range, cells you want evaluated. A to this. Sum range is that. I don't know why that's not working. It's not a... Okay, well, I'm not sure why that's not working. I'm looking to see. Okay, well, if that's not working, let's do this. I'm just going to go back equals sum, parenthesis, of this range. And that should work. I don't know why it's not working the other way. That's crazy. We'll figure that out in a second. If I wanted the average sales, maybe average if works. I don't know why the other isn't. Equals average if, parenthesis. Average this range, comma, if, quote, Laura, unquote, comma, and the area that I'm summing is this. It's getting stuck on that cell for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why it's acting that way. The sum if parenthesis sum this range comma quote Laura unquote comma this is the range I want to sum. Okay. It just does not want to work. Okay, don't know why. We're going to move on. I'll figure that out in a minute. Let's actually go to another sheet. I'm just looking for which one I want to use. The sales tax. We're going to talk about relative versus mixed cell addresses versus relative. Okay, I'm going to hold down Control, hit the tilde key so I can show functions because I want you to see what's happening. If I see equals A1 and I hit enter, that's a relative cell address, and what that means is when I copy it down, the row changes. When I copy it over, the column changes. Okay, basically as I copy the function, the cell reference changes relative to the direction that I drag it. Okay? If I hit F4, I'm going to click right next to it and I'm going to hit F4. That's an absolute cell reference. When I hit enter, if I copy it down, it looks at A1. I copy it over, it always looks for cell A1. Okay? If I hit F4 again, this is a mixed cell address. If I copy it down, it looks for the same row, but if I copy it over, it changes column. And vice versa. If I hit F4 one more time, oh, nope, Control Z. If I hit F4 one more time next to that, now I'm saving just the column and the row will change. So if I copy this function down, or the formula down, you can see that the row changes. If I copy it across, the column stays the same. That's the difference between a mixed cell address, absolute cell address, and a relative cell address. A mix, you're saving one value or the other. An absolute cell address is when you're saving both values, and then a relative, you're not saving any of the values. It just changes no matter which way you drag it, etc. Okay? Now, that comes in handy because here I want order amount, but I need to figure out tax and stuff like that eventually. It's going to ask me to figure out tax. So I'm going to add tax here. And right here, if I said equals this times this, there's my function. And then if I say equals this times this, when that copies down, that could change to F11, F12, F13, F14, and it won't make sense anymore. What I want is I want that to be absolute, so I'm always looking in that cell. Now, because I'm not copying this across columns, I could save just the row number by hitting F4 one more time, and I'm saving just the row number, but I'm keeping column F. I hit enter, and if I control tilde to show the total, now you can see what happened. Okay? So I can do that. Another thing I can do is by naming a cell, I could click here and type in tax and hit enter, right? So I name the cell in the name box. And in here, instead of using this, I can use the word tax and hit enter. Okay? Naming a cell is the same as making an absolute cell reference, except it's easier to address because all you're using is the name of the cell instead of the cell address of the row and column. Okay? So there's that. So that is using structured references and formulas, the relative, absolute, and mixed references. Perform calculations using average, max, min, sum. If I was to go to the end here, I'm going to format this as a range so I can go to the end. So if I was to go to the end or what have you, I could say equals average parenthesis of, not price, of order. Getting there. Don't know when it ends. Right there. Okay? And I hit enter. That's the average order. Okay? If I say equals average, if I copy that over, the cell addresses are relative, so if I copy it over, it changes columns, so that's the average amount of tax that's being charged. So this would be AVG order, AVG tax. Okay. If I was to change this, I could say sum of orders, sum of tax, and in this case I'm just going to use this reference because I don't want to have to highlight it again. Control C, hit escape, equals sum parenthesis of this, and because that worked the other one, I can just go boom, there's the sum of tax. Okay. Count A, count blank, all of those work. If I was to do this, I could just say count of sales equals count parenthesis of this range. There's 137 values. If I wanted to, I could technically delete this, for instance, and all of a sudden that changed to 136. However, if I say equals count blank parenthesis, control V for the range, hit enter, I've only got one value that's blank. It's looking for any of the blank cells. If I say equals count A, parenthesis, control V, close parenthesis. I got 136 because it counts all values. If I was to do a equals count, if you look, there's a count if s, there's all these different counts. But you get the idea is it's actually counting based on what I'm telling it to count. Let me see something. Let me hit a scale. A parenthesis, Control V. If I was to put hello in here, notice that this one changed because count A counts any text. Not just numbers, but it counts any text. Where this one is still only counting if it has a number in it. Okay? So Control Z. Now, if functions are something like this, if functions are pretty straightforward. Equals if parenthesis. For if functions, I like going to the dialog box because it gives you an example. So if this is any logical test, a logical test is to see if something is greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to something. You can use other logical functions like and or and not, and you can use them in all kinds of combinations and stuff. But to keep things simple, we're going to use just a simple if. So I'm going to say if this is greater than, we're going to say 20%. So 0.20 times this. Right now it says false. What do I say if it's true? I'm going to say tax is too high, unquote. Otherwise, quote, tax is fine, unquote. Okay? So it's telling me that because that's false, that it says that. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to change this to 11900, and all of a sudden tax is still fine because it's the average tax. I shouldn't be doing that. Let me change that to sum of tax. I should have done this one. I'm going to say if not that cell, this cell is greater than that times this cell. There. So tax is fine. If I was to change this to 71,123,000, that tax is still fine. If I should change this to 940, that tax is still fine. I'm still under 20%. If I change this to 200,000, tax is still fine. If I was to, I think it's going to always stay the same. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, because of the formula. It's because I'm adding it to sum of totals. I'm going to do, because that's 3 million, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now tax is too high. Anytime you see numbers like this, that means that your column's not wide enough. Widen your column. But my if function works because I'm just saying, okay, if P13, which is this, is greater than 20% of this, then the tax is too high. Otherwise, the tax is fine. So I tested it and it works. So that's the if function. It doesn't have to be an extremely difficult function, but the function dialog box helps because it tells you. Let me go back in this, click this, and you'll see that it tells you this is the test. It has to be evaluated to true or false. Then it tells us this is what to do if it's true, this is what to do if it's false. This could be another function or a math thing where I say, okay, if that's true, take tax, sum of tax minus $1 million. Otherwise, I could say sum of tax is fine or something like that. So if I wanted to, the result could be, instead of typing this in, I could say this minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit OK. Now there's the amount that it should be. Okay. And so on. So there's a lot of different ways of handling this stuff. We did the counts, we did the ifs. You can sort data by using a sort function. You can get unique values by using the unique function. For the purpose of this, I'm going to use the same thing. I'm going to use this column here. So I'm going to say equals unique, parenthesis, and if it's bold-faced, it's required. If it's not bold-faced, it's not required. I'm going to click the function dialog box, and I'm going to highlight my range. And as you can see right here, I highlighted my range, and I'm saying returns the unique values from the array or range. The range or array from which the return results are rows or columns. And by column is a logical value, compare rows against each other, and all that stuff. But the thing is these are not okay. So by hitting OK, it creates a list of all of the unique values. Okay. In this case, I think all of them are unique. I don't think any are repetitive. So we can't really, because 12 pack. Yeah, so all of these are this. Oh no, it's not. If you look, it gave us just the values that are unique. Now, if you were to do this and click this function again, if you were to click this function, if you said true here, return all distinct rows or columns from the array, it's false if omitted. If I set this to true, it'll show all values that only show up one time at all in all of that. Okay, so if there's any one value that only shows up one time, it will show up just the values that only show up one time. Okay, so anyway, which all of these show up one time. So, but that's unique. And sort's the same type of thing. When you use the function dialog box, you can say equals sort, parenthesis, and if I click the function dialog box, it tells you what's necessary. The range or array to sort, the sort index, the sort order, and so on. And it tells you what to type. So this is the column you want to sort. This is the value you want to sort. Do you want them ascending or descending? And a number indicating the row or column to sort by. Okay, so this is just a function for sorting. Format and modify text. They have a lot of different versions of this. Concatenate, stuff like that. Let me go here to customer list. If I wanted to in customer list, I can say equals concatenate parenthesis this value quote or comma quote space quote comma this I gotta click on it, this value, close that, hit enter, and it will combine them. The same thing goes for text join. Text join is the same concept, but it's treated differently. So I'm going to undo, and right here I'm going to use text join equals text join parenthesis function dialog box. What is my delimiter? Character or string to insert between each. Just a space. Quote space quote. Concatenates a list or range of text strings including a delimiter or using a delimiter. If true, default ignores empty cells. I'm going to leave it alone. Okay. Text 1 is this. Text 2 is this. I hit OK. I get the exact same result. Okay. If I want to use something like right and left or upper and lower and length, if I say equals upper parenthesis, select this cell, hit enter, you can see that it made it all uppercase. If I want to do something like lower, it would turn it to all lowercase. If I said equals len n parenthesis of this text, hit enter. That's 15 characters long, including the space. If I was to change from right or left or whatever, I could say equals right parenthesis. Here's the text I want, and I want 3 characters. And I hit enter, and that gives me the last 3 characters because it starts from the right and moves left. And left starts from the left and returns right. And middle starts in the middle and returns the number of characters. Okay, that's between there. So that's that. That's concat. That's left, right. And that's it in the line of those. Hopefully that's helpful. And we'll move on to the next thing.